Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Ayabex webinar. Uh, so, oops, it's our 13th webinar this time. Thank you for being with us. And this time we have a special guest from traditional show that is held in Tokyo. It's named Zakuro. So we'll show you one of the facilities that we can suggest for your guests to learn more about Tokyo. But briefly, a little bit about housekeeping items. As usual, everyone is on auto mute mode. So if you have any questions, suggestions, anything you want to share with us, please send us via the Q&A box. So the Q&A part will be in the end of our webinar. Please share everything that you want to share with us. In case we would not have enough time to answer all the questions, or in case you have any questions after the webinar, please send us via the email in this case, and all the questions that we have received during the webinar, we would answer you via the email you have registered. And as usual, everything is recorded. So if you want to look at it once again, you can always use the same link that you used to come here today. So just click and watch it once again. So today's agenda, it's, well, as usual, we have really simple COVID update and the speech from our special guest, this presentation part. And in the end, your questions and our answers. First, a little bit about the updates on COVID situation. Well, first, biggest news about it we want to share is that finally government has announced their plans for the tourism. So everyone knows, now the borders are closed for tourists, only for business travelers, only business travelers can enter. And now the plan is that before Olympic, from this next spring, only limited numbers of foreign tourists will be entered. Limitation would be both for the countries and at the same time for the size of the group. Tourists will be asked not to move in big groups. Now the number of group was named like 7 people in one group, but maybe it would change. It's still kind of under consideration. So the government will keep an eye on situation inside the country and outside of country. So it's still just only the first step that we have heard. But so the one that we know, the plan is that in spring, the borders would be opened, but with some limitations. And for all other people, after Tokyo Olympic is held, so that's kind of the main idea is to let people in to test the facilities, the anti-COVID measures that have been taken, but not to put too many people at the same time, not to have a huge increase of COVID cases in the country. And after Olympics is over, so everyone believes that the country would be able to accommodate any tourist, any group of tourists, so everyone would be welcomed, of course, considering the new society, post-COVID society situation. Unfortunately, we're still facing this third wave in Tokyo. Well, it is bigger than the second one, but the government is well, doing its best to take it under control. So it's started a little bit decreasing, but it's still under consideration. So again, one of the reasons that's thinking about how to do and how to react. But we have another new news that the diet has finally, well, the law has passed in diet. So the vaccination is going to be held in Japan, and the government hopes that in the middle of next year, so just before Olympics, there will be enough sufficient doses to inoculate everyone living in Japan. So well, we do hope on it. Well, at the same time, the vaccine is developing in Japan also, but it's believed that it would take pretty long time, maybe 1 year more. So, well, not much hope is put on Japanese vaccine, and Japan has signed contracts with 3 overseas companies. So that's all from me for now. So we keep on hoping that we every time we'll get more and more news and can finally plan anything for the next year. And I'm really glad to for you to meet our special guest, Miss Julia Gubina. She's the show organizer and interpreter during the show. So, and she will tell you everything about it. So, Miss Julia, are you there? Are you with us?
Okay, hello. Just give me a second.
Yeah, just short changing of screens. Yes.
Now, I hope everybody can see my screen. Hello again. My name is Julia Gubina. I am one of the organizers of the traditional Japanese music show, Zakuro show, in the heart of Tokyo. So let me tell you about what we do here, how it looks like, what is special about us, and why you and your guests should definitely visit us when the borders are open and airplanes are flying again, and you can visit Japan. So, traditional Japanese music show. Let's be honest. The first thing that comes to mind when you hear a term traditional music show, it's something boring, right? Something for old people, something with unknown history whatsoever. It's usually long and not very entertaining. When you are dragged to any kind of traditional show, you usually have no context of what this is and why it's supposed to be interesting. Also, of course, it's something for education. So a lot of kids in schools are dragged to this kind of performances. And also some small bunch of old people who try to find their roots usually get into traditional stuff and traditional music, but we all know that they just have nothing to do, right? And the last point about traditional stuff, traditional music, is usually very difficult to explain. Zakuro, on the other hand, has an ambitious goal. We are different. Why? You see, we wanted to achieve two goals at once. The first one is to introduce Japanese culture to foreign visitors, of course, especially because Japan is yet not that open to the outside world. And although it's much easier to travel here compared to 5, 10 years ago, it still has this barrier. You know, people don't speak Japanese, people don't really know that much, but they are fascinated with the culture and they want to know as long as there is a chance to. So the second goal for us is to reintroduce the Japanese traditional music to Japanese people. Weird, right? Well, you see, they are the same as us. They were also tortured as kids, dragged to all kind of traditional performances. And obviously, when you grow up, you don't want to have anything with that whatsoever, ever again. So yeah, and I'm sure you can relate to that. To change things, you really have to need to have a fresh start and a different point of view. So with Zakuro show here, we have we checked certain points to be sure that it's special. We have one of the best traditional musicians in Japan. We have not only music, but performers also explain tradition, culture, history behind the music. They give you that context that you usually lack when you go to that kind of event anywhere in the world. It's the only one of that kind in Tokyo. Actually, although Tokyo is the capital of Japan, and you can imagine that everything is here, actually, it's quite difficult to find traditional Japanese stuff in Tokyo because it's so modern. Obviously, you can travel to Kyoto or some other local rural areas to see something traditional, but for that, you need time and you need money. And sometimes you really want to cover your tourist program within the capital and then go experience something else. Well, we have it covered for you. We have the program well balanced, not only with old contemporary, something that might be considered boring if you don't really know ins and outs of that music, but we also include modern pieces, new arrangements, and we give comments about the instruments and introduce musical pieces to educate and to entertain. Another special point about Zakuro show, musicians are right in front of you. There is no stage that far in front of you, so you can see everything very, very close. Musicians interact with the audience. You don't just sitting there lamely, just waiting for it to be over. It's an interaction, it's communication, it's diving into the experience. Also, another special thing, Zakuro Show has no language barrier. We translate. I was introduced as organizer and an interpreter. I interpret everything what's happening in the hall in the real time. So whatever musicians are saying, any kind of comment, it's instantly translated into English. So rest assured, you will understand what's going on. Now, let me dive into details of what we have here. First of all, of course, the heart of Zakuro show are Zakuro musicians. We have 6 top-level Japanese musicians, the ensemble, which is called Aioi, growing together. My colleague, co-organizer, is a professional violinist. So we care about quality. He is a member of a very famous, one of the biggest Tokyo orchestras of classical orchestras, not the Japanese traditional music. So he knows where to look. He knows how to arrange the sound, the program, how to put pieces so that they have the biggest impact on the guests. We put the quality of music very high in, we put the priority of the music quality very high. The musicians are very high professionals. And obviously they play those traditional instruments. So what do we have? Although usually if you try to find some classical, like traditional music event in Tokyo, you would find maybe a lady with a shamisen, the one on the left of the screen, the instrument here, 3 strings. Maybe some koto soloist, the Japanese harp, but we present all major traditional musical instruments, which are Japanese harp, called koto in Japanese, Japanese bass harp, jushichigen, then Japanese bamboo flute, shakuhachi, Japanese drums, all kinds of Japanese drums. So yeah, you will be able to see all those and listen to them up close and be sure that the quality of the music and musicians is the top level. Now, as I mentioned, we don't just play music. We arrange it the way that you listen and learn along the way. As I just said, you need context. You need to dive into experience. So during the show, there are small intermissions to talk about musical instruments. also to give information about history of the performed pieces and interact with the audience. It's easy to understand, as I mentioned, because we balance out the program so that it's easy to enjoy for any kind of person, for kids, for adults, for foreigners, for Japanese locals, for anybody. The program consists of traditional music composed hundreds of years ago, also famous contemporary pieces and experimental pieces. This is also another point about Zakuro show. We don't just stick to classics because as all of us have that image that, oh, classic is long and boring. No, we're trying to destroy this image. For that, it's so much more interesting to see how instruments that hundreds and hundreds of years old actually perform something modern and new. So yeah, we do the special arrangements for that. English is okay. The show is bilingual. It's me there on the right corner translating along the show. Musicians usually like to crack jokes and ask questions, which we will be doing with you too a little bit later. I will ask some questions and see how you can guess about things in Japanese traditional music. So yeah, we translate everything, but not only the show itself. All the programs are covered, are printed in Japanese and in English. Also, we maintain English homepage along with the Japanese version. All our SNS are going in double languages, Japanese and English. So for people who really look for unique special experience out there, they can find us. You see, I've been living in Japan for 10 years. And back in the day, it was, oh my God, it was so difficult to find anything. Because if you don't speak decent Japanese, you can't really read all these home pages in weird writing, like, kanjis, hieroglyphics all over the place. Also, you're quite scared. Okay, even if I find it and go there and actually visit the show, how am I gonna understand what's going on there? Because even if they say something, I don't speak the language. Well, you don't need to speak the language. Also, the music is this unique media. Even if your English is not that high of a level, it's still okay because it's a live performance. Everything is going on in front of you. We don't only talk, we also show, we also play. And it's so much involving and entertaining that really there is you don't need to be worried about language barrier. Now, this is my favorite part. Do when you go to this event and the hall is so big, the stage is high and so far away, and you feel like you will never belong, even though you are deeply interested in the event itself. Zakuro Show has a tiny hall. We can fit up to 40 guests, 40 visitors for one show. You can see everything. You can see every move, catch every breath, see fingers moving along a flute or along the Japanese harp. Um, so as you can see on the picture, it's so up close. Of course, I should mention the coronavirus situation because this year we are fighting the global pandemic. And obviously, for the show in a closed hall, there has to be something to stop, to not, to be careful with the coronavirus infection. Well, of course, we have the measures in action. First of all, right now you can see that visitors are sitting quite close to each other. We limited the number of seats to 20, only 20 seats. Can you imagine? It's almost the private show for you. I mean, if you have a group of like 10 or 15 people, this is pretty much the whole hall for you. So yeah, we put the space, we put the social distance between the seats. Obviously, we also disinfect all chairs and the walls and the doors and everything, and there are disinfectants on the entrance. Also, obviously, all the visitors have to wear masks. Mm, Musicians can't really wear masks because they have to perform and some of them have to use their mouths, but we put 2 meter space between the musicians and the visitors so that there is no way for anybody to get the infection. Also, between shows, we have 2 shows a day usually because the number of seats is so limited and we want to produce the best show there is. Of course, in between the shows, we make air circulate. So yeah, we keep all the measures to stop the coronavirus infection and keep our guests, our musicians, and ourselves safe. Um, the last point about special point about Zakuro show, oh no, maybe not the last, sorry, but when you go to this kind of special event, you want to take memories back home, right? At the Zakuro show, after the show is over, you can take pictures with musicians. Once again, right now on the picture, you see guests standing right in the middle of the stage among musicians, posing for the camera. Right now, because of the coronavirus, we changed it a little bit. So the musicians are standing there at the back, behind the instruments, and the guests are sitting here in front of the instrument on the special chairs for them. This way, the musicians and the guests do not really interact close, or rather don't come close to each other, but you can still take a memorable picture, post it on any of your SNS, share it with your friends and family, and tell everybody what an interesting experience you had in Tokyo. So, how long is the show? The show is 1 hour long, both for music part and for explanatory part. Also, the very cool thing, in my humble opinion, about the show, it's located very conveniently. It's in the middle of Tokyo, near the Harajuku area where the Tokyo fashion youth hangs out. Yoyogi Park, one of the major parks of Tokyo, Meiji Jingu Shrine, where any tourist visits when they visit the Tokyo shopping street, Omotesando, where people go for shopping. And also it's very close to the Shibuya area where the statue of the dog, famous dog Hachiko is. So if you want to squeeze the Zakuro show into your tour program, it's very convenient to come in, have 1 hour of the show, and then continue your tour afterwards. Now, let's have a break. You might be tired of me talking too much. So I would like to show you one of the musical pieces. The tune is called Shochikubai. This is a really old traditional tune. The style in which it was composed was created about 250 years ago during the Edo period. So this is the kind of tune you play in a small ensemble with the koto Japanese harp and the shamisen. So it's gonna last about 3 minutes. Please enjoy.
ジュリアさん, it looks like the screen has not been changed.
あ、すいません。ありがとうございます。
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that was Shochikubai. Wanna hear a joke? Actually, the original piece, Shochikubai, lasts about 30 minutes. Imagine this kind of hardcore traditional music going on for half an hour. Actually, regularly, really classical, traditional Japanese musical pieces last like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, sometimes even an hour. So you have like one or two and the whole concert is over. That is also why at the Zakuro show, we created this Zakuro version, special version for you to actually have a glimpse, enjoy, maybe get yourself familiar with this kind of traditional music, but we don't let you get bored. So I have a question for you. The koto, the Japanese harp here on the left, how old do you think this instrument is? There will be a poll for you right now. Try to vote. Okay, let's let's wait another maybe couple of seconds. And okay, I guess we can end this poll. Guys, you're totally right. The koto here it's a little bit over than 1,000 years old, and it arrived to Japan from China. The interesting fact about koto is the instrument, the shape of the instruments remained almost unchanged through the whole 1,000 years. And although in China right now there are like similar instruments, but they already shifted and look different. The koto you hear we have here in Japan preserved, it's the shape is almost the same as when it arrived to the country. Although the 13 strings koto, the classical koto that you have on the screen is that old. Along the history, there were obviously new versions and there are new iterations of the instrument. So I have a second question for you. This instrument in front of you has only 13 strings. How do you think? How many strings does the biggest existing koto has? Okay, anybody else? Okay, I guess we'll wait another like 5 seconds and finish the poll. Okay, we're ending the poll, and this time nobody won. Actually, not even a single person voted for the 80 strings, and the biggest existing koto right now has 80 strings. Yeah, how can you play that, right? It has the shape of a grand piano, and the player is sitting in that, S shape, like in the middle, and reach to strings. I mean, it's not really played right now, it's in the museum. There is this guy, Japanese koto player and composer Miyagi Michio, who about 100 years ago really wanted to change something in the classical scene, and he created the bass koto jushichigen that you will see in the next video. And I mentioned that we have this instrument in our ensemble too. And also this guy decided to create like the biggest one, and the biggest one has 80 strings. Cool, right? So you just heard the thank you for the poll. I think I'll close it. And now, after you experienced the traditional musical piece, I want to share with you something different. As I said, we balanced out the program so that everybody is entertained. And I would like to introduce to you another musical piece. It's called Soran Scherzo. So there is this old folk song of the fishers of Hokkaido, northern island of Japan. And when they are in the sea, they have this kind of like crying, shouting, music, folk tune, and there is a dance too. So at the Zakuro show, you can hear the special jazzy arrangement of that, and see all kinds of schools, the way the musicians are playing, and all range of instruments. So this one will take about 6 minutes. I hope my screen is shared properly. I'll just recheck it again. And enjoy the Soran Scherzo. This one is different. Okay, I guess we'll stop here because the whole tune takes around 11 minutes and we don't have that much time. And I'll get back to, no, I won't get back to, I'm sorry. So yeah, this was Soran Scherzo. And this is not the only modern piece that we do. We do, maybe you know this very famous Japanese composer Ryuichi Sakamoto, who wrote the very famous tune worldwide, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. He was in the movie with David Bowie. So we play that one arranged for traditional Japanese musical instruments. Also, we play some tunes from the anime, like a very famous right now, at least in Japan, anime called Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. That tune we play too. Back in the day, we also played like other anime tunes. So basically, our program has real hardcore classics and modern tunes and something in between with all kinds of styles to see, to hear, to get familiar with. And I have other question for you. You've seen shakuhachi players of Japanese bamboo flute playing in this musical piece. So the next poll is, how many holes does a shakuhachi flute have? How do you think? Okay, we'll wait for another 20 seconds maybe. Okay, I think we can finish the poll. And the right answer is the classical Japanese flute shakuhachi has only 5 holes, 4 in the front and 1 in the back. And if you have anything to do with music, you might wonder, you know, how do they play all the sounds if there are only like 4, like 5 holes? Well, the point is, I mean, you might have seen their, you know, shaking their heads a lot during performance. It's not because, you know, like they have some kind of illness, nothing like that. They're changing pitch with the, you know, with their heads, so that sounds are different, and also they don't just open and close the hole, they close like half of it or quarter of it, and this way the pitch changes. Amazing, right? And this flute also is very old, along with the koto. It came to Japan like more than 1,000 years ago, and this flute is unique to Japan. I mean, back in the day it also came from China, but right now nowhere in the world people play this kind of flute. And the last poll for you today, you might also saw the drummer playing this small shoulder drum. And yeah, so that we talk about instruments, right? We have like koto, we have flute, we have the drummer playing like shoulder drum, and there was like the bigger drum, and also there is a shamisen. So one of the musicians has an old instrument, which is about 200 years old. Which one do you think that is, just by watching the video? Okay, we're even here. Anybody else? Okay, let's. Okay, so right now, let's stop the poll. The shakuhachi flute wins. No, actually, the hand drum, the small one that the drummer was hitting in the beginning of the tune, it's originally 200. It's 200 years old. Not the way like the instrument itself, but this particular instrument. These drums in particular, the longer they exist, the better they sound. So and also they cannot really survive in dry climates. So Japan, that is why Japan is so good for them. They need humidity to be able to sound vibrant. So the right answer is the hand drum. The hand drum in the hands of our drummer is 200 years old. Thank you. I will finish the poll now. So I hope you enjoy the music. And let me get back to the presentation of Zakuro, about Zakuro's show, because I still have a couple of interesting things to share with you. Now, when you or your guests can come and visit us, and when and how. We do, first of all, we do regular performances. This is a big deal. Unfortunately, because of the coronavirus right now, we cannot really plan that much ahead. So if you go to our homepage, you would see that we set only 4 shows for the next year, but this is not the final number of shows, obviously. In the before Corona world, we were doing first once a week and then once a month shows, 2 shows a day at 5 p.m. and at 7 p.m. The program is different. So the first set of tunes at 5 and then another set of tunes at 7. With slightly different introductions and explanations, but very fulfilling in its basics. Right now, we have the regular shows decided only for small amount of dates, but please check our homepage, please check with our partner in tourism, Ayabex, because they will have all the updates. And obviously there will be more regular shows. I hope that you will be able to visit us. Also, obviously, we have the special option for a private concert. What does it mean? You will have our musicians and the whole all for your own, be that 2 guests, 1 guest, 5 guests, 40 guests, as much as your group is. For the private concert, you can choose any date you like and arrange it, and obviously we will play the show for you. But as private concerts go, we can arrange much more than just musical performance with introduction and obviously with a translation. Another option is to add a musical lesson. It's very popular with kids, with musical students, but if I'm completely honest, I mean, it's popular when people order it, but it's very funny to see how parents who brought kids to have a music lesson actually end up touching everything and playing everything and also trying to make a sound out of the bamboo flute. So it's for all ages, it's for all the guests. We do the musical lessons
Sorry,
together.
Julia, are you showing the slideshow, the presentation?
Yes, and you can't see it, right? I'm so sorry. Here you go. Can you see it right now?
Yes, yes, it's okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, thank you. So yeah, the slides, the regular show, regular schedule, then the private concerts we do, as it's in Japanese, it's called kashikiri, and private concerts with music lessons. The guests will have a chance to touch and try and play koto, shakuhachi, shamisen, Japanese drums. I mean, obviously, usually there is a trouble of a budget, so we put up different private concert plans for you so that you can choose the one that suits you if you can't make it to the regular show, or you have VIP guests or just guests who don't really want to share the hall with other people, especially in the situation of coronavirus. So there is the basic plan where we have the concert 1 hour, as we usually do on our regular shows, with the Japanese language and English translation. You choose the date. And the point here for the basic program, you need to book 2 months in advance. I mean, all the details are shared with our partner Ayabex, so you can get these details after the lecture too. The shorter it gets to the performance and the more options you want during that special private show, the better and slightly more expensive it gets. So the premium plan, we add 20 minutes of Japanese drums lesson to try for all the guests. And also you can choose your preferred language. So if you are coming from not English speaking country, we can arrange a specialized translator for you. As you might have noticed, while I'm talking, I'm using some special terms which are used like in the classical and traditional music. So the translator really have to know what musicians are talking about to translate about it. So we arrange the special translator of the language you need. And for premium plan, it's 1 month booking and payment finalization in advance. And the VIP Kashkiri, you sure have this kind of special VIP clients who get to you maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 1 month before the trip, going, oh, book us everything, and we're flying, like in a week. For this kind of special occasions, it will have to be VIP plan because it takes time to arrange the show. So if the booking and payment are finalized 2 weeks before the concert, we can arrange the show, the translator of your language. You can try all kinds of instruments, Japanese harp, flute, shamisen, drums, during the 40 minutes musical lesson, and obviously you choose the free date. Once again, I do understand that it's a lot of information, so you can get back to the tourist partner and get the information. So finalizing the Zakuro show, we've been doing this event for 2 years now. And in 2 years, we became, we got listed at the TripAdvisor as Tokyo #1 event. We received Traveler's Choice Award 2020. I mean, the 2020 was not particularly a touristy year. Rest assured, this is the award for achievements in 2019. We have 100 excellent reviews, and yeah, there are really a lot of very pleasant reviews about the show. Let me share some with you. It's a little bit small, I'm sorry. So basically, people who leave reviews about our show, they highlight those parts which we really put time and effort to think and to arrange, so that this show is different. It's something totally different. It's special and it's memorable. So intimate, educational, lovely performance, amazing music. We were happy about the show. We took photos with the artists. So our visitors speak for themselves. It's not just, me bragging about our amazing performance. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of my speech, we have two goals here. Not only we want to introduce Japanese classical traditional music to the foreign audience, we also set a goal to reintroduce it to Japanese people, because honestly, they also think that it's boring. And, sometimes to make something work, You need sometimes to attract interest in your own country, you have to become popular abroad or among foreigners. So it's working. We get interest from Japanese media about us. We got interviewed for the online music magazine. It's not the only one. And we featured in the radio show. They also put musical pieces and our original arrangements in the program. So yeah, we are also featured in Japanese media, and we are not just foreign tourist attraction. Actually, about 30%, 35% of our visitors are locals. So yeah, it's the plan for both foreigners and people who live in Japan. And now I'm finishing my lecture. You can find us online. Our homepage is zakuroshow.com. We are also on SNS, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Just Google Zakuro Show in 2 words or in 1 word. And we also have on all the links on our official homepage. So this is it. We are really looking forward to see you at our Zakuro show when the airplanes are flying again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So it's the time for questions and answers. We have a lot of questions this time. It was really interesting presentation, and I guess a lot of people have questions. And if you have more, please send us. We'll try to finish, although time is running out. So I'll try to be quick. So we have an interesting questions. Why all musicians don't smile when they are performing? Is there any rule about the face expression?
Yeah, there actually is. I mean, sometimes the koto players do a little smile, but the shamisen player, for example, the one who was sitting in the front, there is this certain etiquette for the player to look down and have this poker face. So yeah, basically this is along with the style of traditional Japanese music.
So
But
it's
when
part of
they entertain
tradition.
and talk, they actually do smile. They're very funny, to be honest,
Yeah.
but not during the performance.
And so when they take pictures together, yeah, so the interaction part is less serious, but music is kind
Oh,
of,
totally. Oh,
yeah.
totally. I mean, especially our flute players, they crack jokes all the time, and the audience is laughing like crazy. But yeah, the musical parts, because they are also super professionals and they really concentrate on what they do because they do it on a very high level. Yeah, I guess, I mean, not, they do have it as tradition to have a poker face, but also they do really concentrate to produce the best music out there. So yeah, that's for the serious phase too.
So it can be also interesting to compare them playing and then talking. So different faces, like almost like different images. I guess it's also can be part of interaction and interesting part
Yeah.
of the show. Thank you. So we have one more question. What is the minimum number of guests to operate the private show and music lesson? Do you have minimum number or you have the fixed price?
Okay, as long as it's a private show, you can have as much as you want. It can be 1, it can be 2. If we're talking about higher limits, our hall is up to 40 seats per show. So if you have a bigger group, you can divide, or we can arrange a different hall. We did that for our private performances in the past. We had 80 and 100 students from the musical university. For that, we arranged a hall for 300 seats. So all of them could fit in and we could do like show at once. And also we arrange additional instruments. It's not only the instruments you saw during the clip. So there will be like usually like up to 5, 6 koto, and then much more bamboo flutes and 3 shamisen, and there are like different drums. So after the performance is over and we're getting into this music lesson part, we bring in additional instruments if the number is like, I don't know, 50, 60 people, right?
Wow.
We separate guests into groups, like 10 people are trying shamisen, like 15 people are trying the flute, and then they change. Also, for that, we take some time.
Perfect. So you have answered the next question we had. So, but I'm just going back to the first one. So the price would not change. Either you have one person or 10 people. So it still be the same fixed price, right?
Yes,
For
it will
private,
be
yeah.
the same fixed price according to the plan you
Yeah.
choose,
Okay.
like the basic, the premium, the
Yeah,
VIP.
yeah, it's kind of discussing. So you can make it even for one person, but price would be the same as for one.
Yes, because we cannot operate,
Right.
for one person, we still have to operate as if we're operating for 40.
Yeah, the
So
basic
yeah,
cost
we
is the
cannot
same. You
change the
have
price.
rental of the place. You have yeah,
Yeah.
everyone playing. So yeah, okay, thank you. So there was a question about the bigger group, like 100 to 100 people, and so you have answered that. And there is one more part in this question. Can you, is it possible to make a performance at the hotel or dinner venue, like for clients?
It is. It is. Just okay, if it's like super VIP and your guests want it like in a week or in 2 days, it might get a little bit pricey. But we
But still
can
possible.
certainly, huh?
Even the last minute is still possible. Well, I think that for my group, it's usually still planned beforehand, not the
I
last
mean, well,
minute.
at least a
Yeah,
couple of days. Like in one day, we cannot because I mean, in
yeah,
Japan to
you need.
actually arrange everything takes ages. So yeah, well, preferably at least a couple of weeks. And on the like this VIP plan, I mean, we can still arrange everything. We can do the hotel, we can do the dinner. We yeah, I mean, just please reach to Ayabex and we will arrange it.
Okay, thank you so much. So one more question. Well, I don't think we'll take more time. Well, a little, at least one more. So is Zakura the only traditional show in Tokyo?
If we're talking a full-blown musical performance, then yes. There are some small venues, more like a bar or a restaurant at Asakusa, where, well, there might be a lady with shamisen playing and doing some Okinawa tunes. Um, Obviously, if you travel to Kyoto, for example, obviously there are much more like traditional music and traditional arts there, so you can find it. But for that, you have to travel. You have to pay for Shinkansen. You have to pay for hotel. So if your
Mhm.
group is staying in Tokyo and then I don't know going somewhere else, or you just have this slot in the program where you want to fix something traditional, then Zakuro show is for you because seriously, in our chart on TripAdvisor, we left behind the Kabuki theater. Why? Because it's so difficult. It's so difficult to research, to get the tickets, to get in there. They're talking some old Edo period Japanese. Even if you understand some, you don't really get what's going on. And a lot of people actually stay like really stressed after visiting Kabuki. Like, oh my God, what just happened? I mean, we saw a lot of people in kimono and they were shouting. So for that, Zakuro, like this format, the musical show with translation, with introduction, with explanation, the small venue, everything is in front of you. Yeah, we're the only one.
Okay, thank you. And so I guess this would be the last one. And then all other questions we'll answer via the emails. So you said the show is for 1 hour and then people can take pictures with the musicians.
Um,
Is, am I right?
okay, it's between 1 hour and 1 hour 10 minutes.
Including,
Sometimes we start like a couple of minutes late because usually somebody is late,
okay.
calling us, going like, "Oh my God, just one last minute, please. We came like half a world to see you." So for a couple of minutes we wait. Then usually after the musicians are finished, and because also of the coronavirus, we need to take a moment or two to actually rearrange the seats, open the space, make the musicians line, and only then take pictures one after another, or like one group after another. So I would say that 1 hour and 10 minutes would be safe, like 1 hour for the overall program, and then maybe 10 minutes to take pictures Before the corona, people would be, asking additional questions, and I would be translating that, like, oh my God, like, what are the like musical scores? How do they look like? The question is, they look like Japanese characters. I mean, it's not your European musicals.
So the point
Score,
was
yeah.
people can use this time, so they are not limited, like, okay, you have to leave even if you didn't have time to take a picture. So what is the limitation from that side?
That's a very good question. You see, before the corona, we didn't limit it. And sometimes people stayed 15, even 20 minutes afterwards to chat a little bit. Right now, with the new corona, because we restarted our shows in October, we are very careful, and we just take the pictures one after another. When there is this like,
Okay.
oh my God, please, one question, we quickly do that, but we
Okay.
keep the distance because there has to be a social distancing. We have to be careful. For that, it's kind of limited. We try to wrap up everything in about 10 minutes, because the longer people stay and
Yeah,
actually
of
talk
course.
and
Yeah.
interact, the more dangerous it gets. So we don't want to take risks.
Okay, thank you. It was really, really great presentation. Uh, I think,
Thank you.
and maybe I'll send you, like, if we cannot answer the questions by ourselves, I'll send it to you. And finally, I'm just going briefly through our next webinar theme. So it's going to be held on December 23rd, just before Christmas. And we'll talk a little bit about Japanese New Year, how to, like, this year, Japan would be with no tourists for a new year, but in case for the next year, anyone is thinking about coming to Japan, what can they see, what can they expect, and what is the best way to spend Christmas and New Year in Japan. So that's all for now. Thank you for everything, and we'll wait for you to meet you in December 23rd. Thank you.